Merhaba, her hafta yeni bir bölümle karşınızda olduğumuz Sinemaskop yine dolu dolu. Uzun zamandır beklediğimiz filmler, sinema dünyasından son haberler ve dosyalar, vizyon filmlerinin kamera arkaları programda. Sinema dünyasından habersiz kalmamak için hemen Sinemaskop'a başlıyoruz. 125 ressam tarafından 165.000 kare tek tek çizilerek 10 yılda tamamlanan bir şaheser Loving Vincent. Filmin yönetmeni Hugh Welchman ve yapımcısı Sean Bobbitt Antalya Film Festivali'nde sorularımızı yanıtladı. Loving Vincent 29 Aralık'ta sinemalarda.
Vincent van Gogh killed himself.
How does a man go from calm to suicidal in 6 weeks?
Hello, welcome to Turkey and Antalya.
Hello.
How is it going?
Yeah, it's going very well. We had a very exciting night last night because it was the Turkish premiere and we were sitting up there waiting for the film to start and they kept bringing in more chairs because there were so many people.
It's really crowded.
So, yeah, they told us it was the biggest crowd of the festival, so we were happy that so many people were interested in the film.
So, did you like our audience?
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. It's a beautiful setting and they seem to be, very passionate about the film, so we're very thankful for that.
Okay, let's talk about your animation movie. Loving Vincent is such a remarkable movie and is the world's first oil painting movie.
Mm-hmm. Feature length, yeah.
Yes. How did the idea come from?
Dorota Kobiela, she came up with the idea 10 years ago. She actually came from a background where she was a painter. And after she graduated from art school, then she was doing most of her work in the film industry and animation and VFX and graphic design. And she had something of a crisis when she was 29 and thought that she was going in the wrong direction in her life. And she was thinking about going back to becoming a painter again. And then she decided that what she wanted to do was combine her two passions, her passion for painting and her passion for film. And so she wanted to completely paint a film. And it was going to be a short film, and she was looking around for what she wanted to do the film on, and she was rereading the letters of Vincent van Gogh for inspiration, which is a book that she first read when she was 15 years old and was something that was very close to her heart. And she was reading it and it struck her, especially because Vincent only started painting when he was 29, so the same age as when she was thinking about what she wanted to do with her life. And so she decided at that moment it's such a powerful story that she wanted to bring his paintings to life to tell his story. So she started working on a short film and then she met me. And we fell in love. And
it's a love story too.
Yeah. And we got married, and then
you made the movie.
Well, and then she was actually working for me on my previous film, in the 2 years that we were working on that film, I started to discover about her project, and I also fell in love with her project because I thought visually, even though I'd been working in animation for 10 years, I'd never seen anything like it. I thought it was a very fresh and exciting visual approach to making a film. And also I just thought the story of Vincent van Gogh was amazing, and there are so many people who are very passionate about him that we should try and do it as a feature film and bring it to a wider audience. So I think in 2012 we did a concept trailer, and at that point, we were seeing if it was going to be possible to do this very fresh and very new style. So that was our kind of experiment, and it turned out very well. And I went to meet with Sean, and because I wanted a producing partner on the project, and I showed it to Sean, so he became involved at that point.
So, what brings you to over there?
I want to do something for Vincent.
You're not going to stir things up again, are you? I've had quite enough weeping over that nutcase.
Talk about how you involved the movie.
Well, just like Hugh said, he basically, we had met when he was doing Peter and the Wolf, but just briefly. And then after Peter and the Wolf, he asked me if I wanted to be a co-producer on his film, The Magic Piano, and Chopin Shorts, which Dorota worked on as well, so I met Dorota at that time as well. And near the end of the production, he came to me and he said, well, I don't know if this is something you'd be interested in, but here's this next project that we're working on, which is Loving Vincent. And the concept trailer was just incredible. Obviously, I didn't know that much about Vincent van Gogh, but I knew that he was a very popular painter. And through the production, basically reading the scripts, actually a lot, I got to know a lot more about Vincent van Gogh, and I was just, I was hooked on the project from the beginning.
Can you talk about the story about the film?
Well, it's really a crime investigation story into what happened to Vincent van Gogh. So, what happened in his final weeks that led to him to either commit suicide, or was it in fact suicide, or was he actually shot? And so we have this character, Armand Rouland, who's a very kind of lost and fiery young man who is sent on this mission by his father, who was Vincent's best friend when he was living in the south of France. And Armand Rouland is charged by his father to go and discover what happened to Vincent van Gogh. And he goes to Paris first because he's going to deliver this letter to the family of Van Gogh, and he finds out that not only is Vincent dead, but also his younger brother, who supported him financially, is also dead. And then he goes on to meet the doctor who was meant to be looking after Vincent in his final weeks. And he arrives in the village of Auvers, and there, all these people have different stories about who Vincent really was. And so when you watch the film, you kind of have to make up your own mind who was Vincent.
Yes, there are twists in the film.
Yes.
So, of course. So how did you choose the character of the actors?
We were looking for actors who had a physical resemblance to the famous Vincent portraits that we were bringing to life. But we also wanted people who are famous in their own right. So we wanted famous actors, famous faces for these famous portraits, because when you watch the film, you should be able to recognize the painting, but also recognize the actor. For example, Douglas Booth, he looked very similar to the portrait of Armand Rouland, and we felt he had the right energy for the character. The hardest person to cast was Dr. Gachet. So we were really struggling to find someone for this incredibly melancholic and powerful painting. And then we found Jerome Flynn, who I don't know if in Turkey you have Game of Thrones, if it's successful here, but he's Bronn in Game of Thrones. And I never would have thought of him, but the casting agent suggested him. And as soon as she suggested him, we're like, that's Dr. Gachet.
Okay, let's talk about the technique of the movie. You shoot the film normally, then the painters do it frame by frame?
Yeah.
You use CGI or motion capture,
so
the other things, green screen, live action.
Well, it starts off like a normal animation film. So we had a script, we had a storyboard, we pre-visualized the whole film in layout in the computer, and then we had an unusual step for animation, which is we actually shot with real actors on a stage, mainly green screen. And really the reason for that is because Vincent, when he was painting the portraits, he had a real person in front of him. So we wanted our painters to be bringing to life the performance of a real person. So we shot the whole film, edited the whole film in live action, using references of Vincent van Gogh's paintings, 77 of them in the film. And then once we had edited it all, then we split it into shots, and each painter worked on an individual shot. And so they had these painting animation workstations, and they would have the TV screen above them, and they'd have their canvas in front of them, and they were painting what was in front of them, and they had to reimagine that live action into the impasto and the color technique of Vincent van Gogh.
How many painters did you work with? And how did you choose them?
Well, we had 125 painters, and they came from, was it 20 countries?
20 countries.
20 countries. So we had 5,000 applications from all around the world, and from those 5,000 we did auditions with 500, and from those 500 who did a 3-day painting animation audition, we chose 125 to go through intensive training, and they had to do 100 hours of training in learning Van Gogh's style, and they had to do 100 hours of animation training, and then they could join our production.
His neighbours and the police and the whole town against an ill man.
Vincent, What have you done?
We all knew something was very wrong.
Can you talk about the production notes? What is the most difficulties in the movie? The
Most
challenge
difficult.
thing.
What do you reckon?
The most difficult? I mean, I think the biggest challenge was whether we were going to find the painters. Originally, we were going to look for painters only from Poland, and I think we'd found about 60 from Poland. But because the production kept sort of, because of financing, it was delayed and we weren't moving forward as quickly as we wanted. The trailer of the film went, which was basically just a recruitment trailer, went viral, and that's when we got basically the 5,000 applications. Which was just a fortuitous event that suddenly we were looking at how we're going to find more painters. We started looking in the Ukraine, and then suddenly we had 5,000 applications from all over the world. People who are willing to buy their own plane ticket to come to Poland and work on the film. So I think that was a big challenge, and also just managing. Painters they're individuals. They usually work in a studio by themselves, and suddenly you're putting 65 of them in one studio in Gdańsk, 20 of them together in the studio in Greece, and 10 in Wrocław, and how are they going to be able to work together? And also you're telling them you're not doing your own thing. You have to do this in the same style, because your shot has to look similar to the person who's also doing the next shot. So I think that there were some challenges there, but the painters were they were brilliant. I mean, I think that especially when we increased our painting staff up to 65 in Gdańsk, it really brought in a kind of a breath of fresh air and excitement. People who had traveled all over the world basically to come together and work on this unique artistic project.
Yeah, I think Vincent would have been very happy that we brought together so many painters to work in one studio together, because that was one of his dreams, was to have a studio where painters worked together.
If only I could have been one of them.
Great artists are not peaceful souls. That is the price of your path. Is it worth it?
So, do you know how much paint was used in the movie
I
during
think
the
it's 3,000
production?
litres, yeah?
Yeah, 3,000 liters.
3,000 litres.
Yeah. So it's quite a bit. Well, we actually got a painting sponsor at the end, so that was nice.
Yeah, so all the paint was sponsored by Royal Talents, and they actually have a brand of paint called Van Gogh, and that's what we were using, coincidentally.
Yeah.
So, what is the funniest or unforgettable moment of making the movie?
The flood.
Yeah, that was scary and slightly funny. So we had a flood in the studio, and all of the paintings got wet, and all of our painters were so upset that they were running into the flood, but we had all these cables and everything, and we were like, get out of the water, we're more worried about you than the paintings, and they weren't worried about getting blown up or something, and they were just going in and getting armfuls of paints,
Save the
painting,
paintings.
save the paintings, and we're like, save the painters, forget the paintings.
So, what do you want to say to our audience for Turkey, for loving Vincent?
For loving, we've been loving Vincent for many, many years now, and we hope that when you see the film that you'll be loving Vincent too. We know that Turkey is a very cultured country, and so we are sure that there are lots of Van Gogh fans and people who are open to new experiences in the cinema, and this is definitely a new experience.
Yeah, okay. What do you want to say?
No, I mean, I really hope everybody enjoys the film. You've been very hospitable to us, and I hope we can repay that by showing you a film that you'll be amazed by.
By my work, what this nobody has in his heart. You're loving Vincent.
Yoğun bir sinema turunun ardından yine Sinemaskop'un sonuna geldik. Haftaya yine dolu dolu bir bölümle aynı gün ve saatte tekrar ekranlarınızda karşınızda olacağız. Hafta içi boyunca sinemadan haberdar olmak istiyorsanız da sizleri sosyal medya hesaplarımıza bekliyoruz. Sinemasız kalmayın. İzlemediğiniz filmde kalmasın. Hoşça kalın.